we have moved to playing online via webcam. And that means that you could join the fun. Find out how in the description, and you might find yourself featured on the channel. Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. Here we've got Jacob cracking a Scalding Tarn for his first turn play of a basic island. Will it be a cantrip or the ideal opening for Delver, being that Delver of Secrets? He's got the Delver. It is Eli's ball now. Will he answer this Delver in kind? Will he remove it? Or will the race be on for Eli to stabilize, as really no deck can handle 3 damage a turn indefinitely? Fatal Push clears that Delver. No days to protect it. A Wasteland takes out Underground Sea, and now another Delver of Secrets. Eli ponders, looking for another answer. Both of these decks with greedier mana bases, Bug versus Grixis. Bug Delver having access to Oko, maybe one of the strongest cards in the format. Also has the benefit of being, I would say, slightly misunderstood. And Jacob actually leaving, I thought, a land on top there. It looks like he might actually be looking to crack this fetch land and brainstorm during Eli's end step. Brainstorm for Eli. Very often those early brainstorms with the Delver will be content to reveal a card and then fetch. Very interesting to see if this ends up being kind of the best line available. It's not an obvious line to me. We've got a Inquisition of Kozilek, maybe? I'm not actually sure what this card is. Let me know in the comments. I may figure this out. Fetch land shuffling away at the top of the library. And now a Brainstorm. That gets a Daze thrown at it. The hand is revealed. And Ponder is taken, leaving just Force of Negation and Force of Will. Fatal Push. Flips the Delver, blind off the top. And Jacob does have one more piece of permission there. A Force of Will paired with a blue card. So if Eli does have some type of removal for this Delver. Oh, Abrupt Decay. Oh, that is a painfully good card in that situation when your opponent is just trying to ride out a Delver. They've got the counter magic in hand, and you have an uncounterable Abrupt Decay to clear that Delver and just put this back into a draw-go situation. And now Bitter Blossom, a card that Grixis is going to have a very difficult time answering. It's a good metagame call here by Eli. These Fairy Rogues can team up to take down a Delver, and they can also set quite a clock. Now there's a Fatal Push to be concerned with. Double blocking would be a little bit of a disaster. Eli would have to be able to ensure that 2 damage goes through to this Delver once it flips. And every turn this Delver doesn't flip is going to be a big problem for Jacob. He's really got to hope for the best here. Thoughtseize takes that Fatal Push, leaves Jacob with just a counter in hand. Eli saying the board as it is favors me. You can try and preserve that if you want with your counter spells, but it's not really going to matter. This Wasteland, likewise, Eli not likely to care very much about. He feels like he's going to win on board, and that Delver not flipping is a very significant problem for Eli. He'll be taking 1 damage a turn for the rest of the game thanks to this Bitter Blossom. So with these life totals, he will need some additional support. And just like that, on cue, a Tarmogoyf shows up to clear the rest of Jacob's hand. If that Goyf had landed, that easily would have swung the board in Eli's favor. And now more defensive cards for Jacob. But he is not really in a defendable position. He's just going to have to keep this Delver back on defense as Eli's life total chips away. Thing is, a few more turns, this mob of fairies becomes a very real threat. Potentially just getting past Delver in a few swings. I mean, yes, he can block one at a time, but ultimately it will be too much. Thoughtseize. Oh, and he actually cashes in the Delver of Secrets to clear a couple of these fairy rogues. Let me know how you would play that. Would you try and have the Delver stand back as a blocker, eroding the fairy position? And a couple of wastelands in this board state swings massively back in Eli's direction. I mean, even more in his direction, I should say. He was leading, and now he is just crushing it with a Goyf and the Bitter Blossom, 5 life, just some false hope there. And now Oko comes down to completely seal the deal. This food is actually eliminating one of the only ways Eli could possibly blunder this would be somehow if he just forgot about the attack step for 5 turns. Even if he does that now, he's got the food to preserve his life. And actually, he's not even going to opt for that. He's just going to make an elk and turn sideways, just close this thing out in 2 turns. Virtually no way back in from that position. A couple of lightning bolts, but again, he didn't have the mana available. Jacob did not have the mana after Eli just practically Armageddoned his mana base with a couple of wastelands, leaving him with just that basic island. And Eli really turned the corner in that game. It was kind of a strong start for Jacob, but ultimately, Bug just really, in the mid-game, completely dominated. And I think that Abrupt Decay was one of the more important cards in the matchup. Just so difficult. The Fatal Push killing the first Delver, fighting over that or not is a decision, but really that Abrupt Decay, you have no say. And, you know, looking back, it's like, well, I guess I should have Force-a-Willed the first Fatal Push. That way at least I'd have a threat on board, but I mean, it's not how it works. You don't get to back it up, so very difficult to play against those uncounterable cards. You don't have the optionality that you'd like. Versus them, they just give you no say unless you're playing some really deep cuts like Misdirection or Divert. Here we go with game number 2. A lot of sideboarding there. These players both know each other, very familiar with the decks, and have a pretty nuanced understanding of exactly what to expect. This Underground Sea into a Delver of Secrets, this time for Eli. And we'll see if he can run with this strong opening. Delver does not flip. The Wasteland taking out his Underground Sea. Now he's got a Polluted Delta follow-up. We'll see if there's a Brainstorm to try and ensure this Delver flipping. How to play Brainstorm, one of the more important decisions in Delver decks. And a Serum Vision. Is that a Serum Vision? Boy, I am not sure if there's any possible way that Serum Vision could be correct. I feel like Preordain just has to be better in every way. Sorry, I'm just a little surprised by the Serum. I'm trying to think of a reason. I mean, I've played Sleight of Hand. And here we go. So we've got a Thoughtseize showing all sorts of just unpleasantness for Jacob. We've got Plague Engineers I believe that would be a Daze. Oko is taken with the Thoughtseize. And now a card good enough to not shuffle away, which would be Tarmogoyf. Eli pausing during that upkeep, deciding whether or not he wants to shuffle the card away with the Misty Rainforest. Something that Delver of Secrets is very good at, playing like a kind of Goblin Guide-esque effect, giving that information about the top of the library. Of course, in this case, it's actually your library. It's a little bit more helpful. For this type of decision, I suppose they both have their utility. And that Tarmogoyf, he's a big boy. Planeswalker already being in the graveyard. There's instant sorcery, land. And it looks like Elk's getting ready to arrive. Eli with an act of optimism, putting an Elk on this remarkable token. Oh, he thinks different. And Brazen Borrower going on an adventure. Petty Theft bouncing that Tarmogoyf, buying some time, and ultimately probably going to be looking to trade with a Delver in all likelihood. Actually, not really. Those Plague Engineers are a mess. Don't want to try and get too many steps ahead here. Try and call it as it plays out. Because in Legacy, really, just about anything's possible. A Brainstorm can turn things around in the blink of an eye. Getting rid of the worst case cards, potentially turning them into literally the pure nuts. And now we've got what I believe was an Inquisition of Kozilek. Just don't recognize this art for some reason. I don't know why it's not registering. Daze into a bunch of mana. Is this going to be the only card that was takeable? Yes. We see a Gurmag Angler. So in this instance, totally fine to Daze there. It was going to go either way, and it restricts Eli's mana a little bit. Just ends up being the right play. Tarmogoyf comes down. And Gurmag, let's see here. Instant Sorcery, Land, Planeswalker. There's a creature now because of the Delver, so Goyf will actually be bigger than Gurmag Angler. Brainstorm for turn gets a Daze back into the hand, but not going to be useful for the most part moving forward. This Gurmag can shrink the Tarmogoyf by going after cards that Jacob has that Eli does not. It looks like still going to be a whole lot of creatures, a whole lot of card types in Eli's graveyard. I think his graveyard actually had it covered either way. I'm not sure what I just saw there with that Daze. It's possible that Eli hasn't had an instant yet, and he was just dumping that into the graveyard. Plague Engineer not being played pre-combat. And it's such an incredibly powerful card. The fact that it wipes out teams of creatures, giving them -1/-1, makes it incredibly good just as is. But the fact that it has Death Touch on top of it, just incredibly good card. I mean, this thing just hits the top and bottom of the curve. killing potentially a whole slew of smaller creatures, then cashing in its value against a card like Gurmag Angler. Tarmogoyf able to swing, gets chump blocked. Another Plague Engineer. And now Ponder. Not even sure what Eli would name. We'll see if he actually gives us a hint. When we do get back to recording live in the store, we will have true HD. This footage from the end, or right before the shutdown. This would be the end of February. Tarmogoyf being killed by a piece removal that I did not catch. Is it a Dark Blast? Did he finish it off with a Dark Blast? I can't really make that out. Yeah, we had a couple of this video that I actually didn't recognize, so feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will favorite those so everyone can know precisely what the card name was, though the function is clear. Did take out that Tarmogoyf and ultimately just buy some time as these Plague Engineers just march to victory. Just 4 damage at a time. Jacob unable to stop the Modern Horizons card from taking game 2 in the match. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.